Hello everyone, this is Anuradha Sharma and you're watching my channel IELTS with Anuradha.
Part 1. First, look at questions 1 to 7.
Oh, okay, come on in. Hi, Ben.
Hi.
Hello, Mark, Sally. Now, let's get going, shall we? Because we've got a lot of ground to cover this afternoon. It's Ben's turn to give his tutorial paper today. But remember, we do encourage questions from the rest of you, so do try to join in and ask questions.
Okay.
Now, I believe Ben's going to talk to us today about the exploration of the Red Planet.
That's right. I'm going to be looking at the recent landing by the Americans of a spacecraft on the planet Mars, and in particular focusing on the small rover robot.
Is that the little robot that functions as a geologist?
Yes, that's right. It's called a rover, like a Land Rover, I suppose, and it can detect the geological composition of the ground it's standing on, so, yes, it's a sort of geologist. It's actually quite amazing.
I heard it described as being like a microwave oven on wheels.
Yeah. Well, from an appearance point of view, that's a fair description. I've photocopied a picture of it for you so that you can keep this for reference and make some notes, and I'll just hand that out now.
Oh, thanks.
Thanks.
Wow. You'd actually expect it to look more space-age than this, wouldn't you? Like, more sophisticated?
Okay, well, as you can see, it's quite small. It actually only weighs 16.5 kilograms.
Right. And what kind of speed is it capable of, Ben?
Well, I suppose that depends on the terrain. But I understand that it has a top speed of 2.4 kilometres an hour, which isn't very fast, really.
And can you tell us how it works? Explain some of these things we can see here.
Well, first of all, on the top it's fitted with solar panels. It runs on solar energy, of course.
Does that mean it can't work at night?
Yes, indeed it does. I guess it sleeps at night. So, you have the solar panels on the top, and underneath, this is the part known as the warm box.
What's the purpose of that?
Well, at night, the temperatures on Mars can go below 100 degrees, so the warm box is designed to protect the electronics from the extreme cold. It's also fitted with 2 cameras on the front.
Okay. And what about its wheels?
It's got 6 aluminium wheels, each 13 centimetres in diameter. Each one has its own motor, so it's individually powered, which allows the vehicle to turn on the spot if necessary. And, as you know, aluminium is very light.
Now look at questions 8 to 10.
And how is it steered?
Good question. It's steered using virtual reality goggles, worn by someone back on Earth, believe it or not. Though, because the robot can't be manipulated in real time, it can't be steered in real time either.
What do you mean exactly?
Well, you see, it takes more than 11 minutes for a radio signal to travel from command headquarters in California to Mars, and another 11 minutes for the answer to come back.
You mean there's a time delay?
Yes, exactly. And the time delay, or time lag, means it can't be steered directly from Earth. So what they do is this. They photograph the area around the rover, and the scientists will decide where they want the rover to go.
In other words, they'll plot a course for the rover.
Exactly.
Okay, Ben, that's very interesting. Now, can you tell us anything about this space mission itself, and why Mars?
Well, people have been fascinated by Mars for a long time, and it's generally believed that Mars is the only other planet in the solar system to have abundant water.
Is it possible that people might one day be able to live on Mars?
Well, of course, there's a lot of work to be done yet, but theoretically, I can't see why not.
Thanks, Ben. That was very interesting.
That is the end of part 1.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 2.
Part 2.
You will hear a talk on New Zealand radio about an art sale which is being held to raise money for charity. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 13
One of the most anticipated art events in Christchurch is the charity art sale organised this year by Neil Curtis. Neil, tell us all about it.
Well, Diane, this looks like being the biggest art sale yet. And the best thing about it is that the money raised will all go to charity. So what you probably want to know first is where it is. Well, the pictures will be on view all this week, most of them at the Star Gallery in the shopping mall. But we have so many pictures this year that we're also showing some in the cafe next door. So do drop in and see them any day between 9 and 5. Now, if you're interested in buying rather than just looking, and we hope a lot of you will be, the actual sale will take place on Thursday evening, with sales starting at 7:30. Refreshments will be available before the sale, starting at 6:30. We've got about 50 works by local artists showing a huge range of styles and media, and in a minute I'll tell you about some of them. You're probably also interested in what's going to happen to your money once you've handed it over. Well, all proceeds will go to support children who are disabled, both here in New Zealand and also in other countries. So you can find an original painting, support local talent, and help these children all at the same time.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 14 to 20.
Now, let me tell you a bit about some of the artists who have kindly agreed to donate their pictures to the charity art sale. One of them is Don Studley, who has a special interest in the art sale because his 5-year-old daughter was born with a serious back problem. After an operation earlier this year, she's now doing fine, but Don says he wants to offer something to help other less fortunate children. Don is totally self-taught and says he's passionate about painting. His paintings depict some of our New Zealand birds in their natural habitats. One relative newcomer to New Zealand is James Chang, who came here from Taiwan 9 years ago at the age of 56. Mr. Chang had 13 exhibitions in Taiwan before he came to live here in Christchurch, so he's a well-established artist, and art has been a lifelong passion for him. His paintings are certainly worth looking at. If you like abstract pictures with strong colour schemes, you'll love them. Natalie Stevens was born in New Zealand, but has exhibited in China, Australia and Spain. As well as being an artist, she's a website designer. She believes art should be universal, and her paintings use soft colours and a mixture of media. Most of her pictures are portraits, so watch out, some of them may even be friends of yours. And then we have Christine Shin from Korea. Christine only started to learn English 2 years ago when she arrived in New Zealand, but she's been painting professionally for over 10 years, and she sure knows how to communicate strong messages through the universal language of art. She usually works from photographs and paints delicate watercolours, which combine traditional Asian influences with New Zealand landscapes, giving a very special view of our local scenery. Well, that's all I have time to tell you now, but as well as these 4, there are many other artists whose work will be on sale, so do come along on Thursday. We accept cheques, credit cards or cash. And remember, even if you don't buy a picture, you can always make a donation.
That is the end of part 2.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 3.
Part 3.
You will hear a conversation between a university student and a faculty advisor about the requirements for the student teaching semester. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 24, I'd like to go over with you today some of the requirements for your student teaching, which you'll be undertaking next semester.
I'm really looking forward to working in a real classroom and teaching children, but I'm nervous about it too.
One of my roles is to provide you with whatever support you may require. One thing that helps me do that is to know what you're doing in the classroom, so I require all my students to keep a journal about their teaching experience.
That sounds like a lot of work. Will I have to write in it every day?
Yes, if you can. You'll give it to me at the end of each week. Another thing I'll want from you is a few sample lesson plans. I'll let you know ahead of time exactly how I want you to do them.
Several of us from the university will be student teaching at the same school. Are we supposed to get together regularly to discuss our work?
I'll meet with each student teacher individually, but you aren't required to meet with each other. Of course, you can talk together as much as you want. You will, however, have to observe some of the other teachers in the school, besides the teacher you'll be working with.
Then will I get an evaluation from my supervising teacher at the end of the semester?
Actually, no. I'll do your evaluation, and I'll base it on several things. One is your required portfolio, which should contain samples of your class activities and your students' work. Another important thing is your term paper.
Then there won't be a final exam?
No, we don't feel that's necessary for student teaching. Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 25 to 30.
I know I have to get an agreement form signed. Since you're my advisor, are you the one to do that?
No, that form is for your supervising teacher to sign, to document that he or she agrees to have you in the classroom as a student teacher.
Oh, I see. I'm concerned about the term paper I'll have to do and the evaluation process. I'm not sure I understand what I'm supposed to do.
Regarding the term paper, the first thing is to choose a topic. It should be related to your teaching work. You should let me know your term paper topic by the end of the first week of the semester.
Will you be observing me regularly in the classroom?
Yes, and during the fourth week of the semester, we'll have our first evaluation meeting to discuss my observations.
One thing I'm really looking forward to is the student-teacher conference that the university puts on every year.
I'm glad you're looking forward to it. Of course, everyone in the program is required to attend. The conference takes place, let me check. Yes, the 7th week of the semester.
When will I have to turn in my term paper?
The term paper is due by the end of the 14th week of the semester. Then during the 15th and final week, we'll get together one last time for a semester review.
Wow, it looks like I have a busy semester ahead of me.
That is the end of part 3.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 4.
Part 4.
You will hear a lecture about airport design. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40.
Good morning, everyone. Well, last week we looked at some of the architectural features of modern house design. And today we're going to move on to look at airport design and how this has changed over the years. So if we start by going back to the 1960s and 70s, when there were a lot fewer airports than there are today, well, check-in desks, customs and waiting areas were all very basic. They were rather like a bus station, designed to allow air traffic in and out of the terminal, but not very welcoming for passengers. Even though passengers spent a lot of time there, the important features were related to the flights, rather than the people who took them, or indeed the places where the airports were built. But that all changed in the next few decades. And if you look at any big airport now, it's more like a mini-city. It combines a transport centre with a mall full of shops and facilities designed to make passengers feel more comfortable. So airports have been transformed. And as with any city building, their design now takes into account features outside the airport terminal as well. So why did this change happen? Well, there are two main reasons. The first was the huge increase in passenger numbers, in the number of people travelling by plane. And this was a direct result of mass tourism, with things like cheap holiday packages and low-cost airlines, with the construction of high-rise hotels and hotel complexes. And then people started travelling more regularly from one country to another for things like meetings, and so the growth in international business also pushed numbers up. In fact, passenger growth has been so significant over the past 30 years that it's estimated that some 21st century airports will need to handle up to 50 million passengers a year by 2020. The second reason for the change is, and this is a key aspect of airport design, people have realised that the airport is the first place you see when you visit another country. This means it forms your first impression of that country, and that impression has to be good. Airports are now called gateways to the cities they serve, and that raises visitor expectations. Now, what are the changes that have taken place in airport design? Well, the interior design, the inside of most airports, is now completely different. First, the dark, enclosed airports of the past have been replaced by large, open areas that look out onto the surroundings. Look at this picture of Beijing Airport. There's a huge amount of space and light, and this is typical of many airports today. Second, well, in the past, you had to go outside the airport to get trains to terminals, but now these are integrated into the design. Also, airport walkways are wide and can cope with the large volume of people. People who want to feel calm and relaxed, who want to get around the airport easily. In this way, the stress of modern travel has been minimised. Outside, the buildings have changed too. Airports were once ugly buildings with large towers and concrete boxes around them. Now they're designed to fit into their surroundings. Look at this picture of the Arctic Circle Airport in Norway. The airport itself is surrounded by mountains. So, as you can see, the roof of the airport has been designed so that it's shaped like a range of mountains. There are peaks at the top and then steep sides that touch the ground. In the same way, these airports in Thailand and India have beautiful shaded gardens all around them that reflect the landscape of the country. They also provide a connection with local tradition and art. Another feature that is important inside airports too. And there's one final but very important issue. It's been said that airports are a new building type. They're often light steel structures with what looks to the passenger like a lot of glass. But this is special glass that can maximise daylight and comfort and cut down on energy use. Bangkok's main airport is flooded with controlled daylight in a tropical climate. And this is achieved through the use of new materials and modern technology, which have also allowed engineers to come up with methods of reducing costs. So, let's take a closer look at some of these.
That is the end of part 4.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more videos.